Welcome to Maximize Your True Potential, Strategies for Success, hosted by Ken Kingstead. Part 2, Understanding Your Business Development Process. This series will give you the edge to recognize and then achieve your goals through its philosophy of constant, never-ending improvement. Strategies that will become a fluid part of who you are. Maximize Your True Potential, Strategies for Success. Your first step to success, beyond your imagination.
Welcome back. Hey, listen, I want to thank you again for the time that you're allowing me to work with you in growing your business again. Listen, that first exercise we went through was fantastic. It gave you the big picture of our car business. Now let's look and dig in, if you will, into what does that mean to us financially. Does that make sense? There are 3 areas we're going to discuss right now that we can look at incremental business, taking the same amount of opportunities you're taking right now, but we're going to actually grow that by follow-up and our owner-based penetration and handling our incoming phone calls more intelligently. Keyword, intelligently. Now listen, a car dealership, we're going to use this as an example just to keep the numbers simple. A car dealership that's selling 100 cars, how many opportunities are walking through the front door every single month? New ones, let's just say. Never been here before, brand new customers. The answer to that is, according to NADA, saying that 20% is the closing ratio on fresh walk-in business. I'll tell you what, there's 500 opportunities walking in to get 100 sales. Does that make sense? Now, a dealer looks at it this way here. He says, okay, I'm selling 100 cars and I'm spending $30,000. Then he divides it out and says, okay, I'm averaging about $300 to sell every car. Is that accurate, though? You know, for a lot of stores, that's what they do. But more importantly, though, are we taking into consideration the follow-up? Are we taking into consideration of the owner base? Are we taking into consideration the referral business that we're being able to pull in that the ad budget had nothing to do with? Okay? So what we're going to do is begin to track several areas to get a real clean number in terms of what we really are spending to sell 100 cars a month. Is it making sense? Take a look here, though. If we're selling, like I said, 100 cars per month or 100 automobiles, okay, we know we've got to take 500 opportunities to sell 100 cars. So do the math. Subtract out the 100 sales, and you're left with 400 unsold customers. Now, the question we're going to ask ourselves is this. What percentage of that 400 could we actually bring back into our dealership? What percentage of that 400 could we actually get a commitment from to want to come back out? And remember, they didn't leave because we were poor salespeople. And I hope not, at least. Okay? They left, again, because of a couple of other reasons. Hey, confusing process. There's over 1,300 different choices out there in America today in terms of cars, trucks, SUVs, makes, and models. I mean, it's a lot of vehicles. The median price automobile right now in America, not average, median, okay, is $25,000. And the internet and the Consumer Reports and the Car and Driver and the Road and Track and all the different resources that are out there, my gosh, their heads are spinning a little bit, right? And they don't want to make the wrong decision because the customer knows that, well, we all know that the biggest fear a customer has is what? They're going to buy the wrong car. That's the biggest fear they have. Their second biggest fear is what? They're going to pay too much for the wrong car. So we have to understand that, and we're going to do our very best to close them when they're here. Manager, TO, whatever it takes to get them sold now when they're here. But if we do our very best and they still go home, we've got to learn to follow up intelligently. And I mean intelligently by saying with keywords and phrases, with non-confrontation to get them to want to come in because they like you. People don't come back because they don't like you. They come back because they like you, the rapport you've established with them. This is making sense. So we got 400 total unsold opportunities. And our goal is that we have, you have your A students in life, you got your B students in life, and you got your C students in life. I'm going to base all these numbers that I'm going to share with you today if you're a C student. I'm not saying you're an excellent student now. I'm saying you're an average student. And so, I mean, we all are at least average. Would you agree? So this would be the worst case scenario for all of us. Again, C student. That's where we want to be. At least average. And being average, we say that at least 20% of the unsold customers we can get a commitment from to say, oh yeah, I'll come back out and see you. I mean, that's worst case scenario. Would you agree? So 20%, we'll call it contacts to the unsold. So we get 20% of that, and we end up with what? We end up with 80 total appointments out of 400 that said, oh, we're going to think about it. Okay? Is that unrealistic? It's very realistic. Now, what percentage of those 80 that said, oh, yeah, I'll come down, and by the way, an appointment isn't just, I'll stop by on Saturday afternoon. That's a prayer, okay? A prayer with no faith, by the way. what an appointment is I'll be down on Saturday at 2:15, or I'll stop by tonight after work at 6:45. I mean, that's a date and time. That's what we're looking for here. So I'm looking for 80, hard, date and time appointments for the whole month for everybody, okay, total. Now, 50% of those 80 are going to blow you off. So we're going to call this 50% show rate. That means, life got in the way, something happened, they had a soccer game they had to go to, they had a play to take their kids to, whatever happened, life got in the way. So that means that 40 of the 80 are actually going to show up, showed appointments, okay? 40. Does that seem realistic? I mean, come on. And then of those, what is your closing ratio, do you think? I mean, you answer the question yourself. When someone comes into your dealership as a B-back, okay, is it above 50%? Is it below 50%? So a worst case scenario in my mind is that it's 36%. And from the years of doing this, I've asked this to hundreds and literally thousands of managers and salespeople, and they say, shoot, I'm closing at least 50%, heck, even more than that of my B-backs. They're not coming back in because they didn't like you and they didn't like your vehicle. They're coming back in because there's hope for gain. So we're saying of these total of 400 unsold, we're going to sell an extra what? 14 cars. Okay? So the first area we look at, we want to grow on, I call it our Florida follow-up area, or for short, FUFU. Okay? FUFU is going to represent, if you will, 14 sales. Does that make sense, everybody? Now, realize this. You got 14 minus 400. You still got over 300 customers that didn't buy. They're still in the market that we can manage over the next 30 days. And we'll keep them in our pipeline for how long? However long it takes, right? To get them to come back in or buy or die, basically. Making sense? All right, awesome. So we're looking at 14 additional units. How much did it cost us to sell these 14 other cars? $0 for the dealer, right? $0. It's more proactive. It's called plus business. It's business that we didn't count on. We'd hope it came in, but we got to begin to measure that so we can measure your effectiveness in this area. And again, if you made, I don't know, let's say you made 200 dials to talk to your customers and only had 10%, if you will, appointments to your contacts, that's an area to improve. Coach you in that area to get you up to speed more effectively. Is this making sense? Okay, the second area we want to look at is our phone-ups. Okay? We'll call it our phone-up follow-up process. Now listen here. According to NADA in Nielsen, the Nielsen company, they've been doing a study since 1990 all the way through now. And they've said this. If you take the total number of sales that you get in a month and you multiply it by 2.5, you give you an average, I guess, we'll come up with an average number of total calls in to the dealership. So in this case here, if we've got 100 sales that we're selling, you multiply the factor of 2.5 and you come up with a number of 250, we'll call it total calls. And they're also saying this, that if you get 250 total calls, how many sales are you going to get out of those total calls? And they call that a net delivery ratio to phone incoming calls. And it's 3% on the high side. It's as low as 2 and as high as 3%. Oh my gosh, what's 3% of 250? Well, do the math. 3% of 250 is a little more than 7.5. We'll say it's 8. It's 8 total cars. Can you imagine now as a dealer, you spend all this money, let's say you're selling 100 cars, you're spending $30, $40, or $50,000, and the telephone's ringing, 250 times, and you're only getting 8 car deals out of it? I mean, jeez. And then what are we doing with, let's say, the other, oh my gosh, 242 calls? Who took those calls, by the way? Who's responsible for those calls? Why didn't we get an appointment? Or what we did get an appointment, did they show up? I mean, again, to track this type of information is invaluable to your business. I mean, as an owner yourself, looking at your business yourself, wouldn't you think these people called in for a good reason? They wanted to buy your vehicle. They're not calling it because they want to buy a pair of shoes or order lunch. They're calling because they want to buy your type of automobile. They're doing their homework. Now, either they didn't buy you possibly, or they didn't feel like maybe you didn't come across effectively and get an appointment, create urgency in telling you had the vehicle, or create some flexibility in the type of vehicle they're trying to get and bring them in. Okay? Now, that's what the average dealership right now in America is doing. That's what NADA says. Now, what we've been able to do in our dealerships that we're working with in growing our people's businesses is take that same 250 now, 250 total, and we have a benchmark that we should schedule at least 60% of this number to an appointment. So if you take 60% of this, you end up with how many appointments? 150. So you get 150 appointments. Of those 150, what are going to show? Let's just say it's the same as we talked about in our floor follow-up. 50% are going to blow you off. So 50% show rate, which is how many? That's 75, we know. Okay, showed appointments. Okay, of those 75 that show, how many actually sit down and exchange numbers? Okay, well, our benchmark, again, being a C student, would be, say, 55% of the 50%. And that would be how many vehicles? How many write-ups? 55%, we'll call it write-up. Now, 55% of 75 is 41. Okay? It's 41 write-ups. And if you write up 41 deals, our benchmark, if you're a C student again, is 65% of your write-ups will get sold. Okay? How many is that? Well, 65% of 41 is 27 total sales. Now realize this, 27 minus what you're already doing, the 8, equals 19 additional units by putting a proper system in managing that process. And again, it goes back to keywords and phrases. What are we saying to that customer? Are we getting caught up in the emotion of buying the vehicle? And when someone calls in, what do they say? Yeah, I'm looking for XYZ vehicle. Do you happen to have that in stock at all? You come back and say, yeah, we got 2 or 3 of those available to us. And he comes back and says, well, how much they cost? You say, well, they range from X to Y. Oh, okay, great. Hey, listen, I'll come out sometime and take a look. And they end up hanging the phone up, and meanwhile, you're going, hey, by the way, my name's Ken. Ask for me when you get out here, please. And they're gone already. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe I'm not. But the point I'm making, though, is listen to yourself and be true to yourself. I mean, park your ego when you walk in the dealership. I mean, look at your business from a standpoint of, this is my business. Okay? And be true to your numbers. You know, honestly, I'm closing at this percentage. That's the truth. You know, I don't care what anyone else is closing at. I'm closing at this number. It's the real deal. And you know what? That's how you grow. Be true to yourself. Now look at this next step. You know, we found out over the years that you go ahead and have a manager call and confirm the appointment. In other words, if you had the same rings, 250 rings coming in, and we're going to set 60% of those, we said there's what? It's 150. Okay? But now, the show rate, if a manager calls and confirms that appointment, in other words, if they say, hi, if I'm a manager here and I call you up, hi, is Mike there, please? Mike, am I getting at a good time? Hey, Mike, this is Ken Kingstad. I'm one of the managers down here at ABC Automotive Group. Hey, I want to thank you for putting some time aside tomorrow with Sherry. You know, Sherry's one of our top salespeople out here, and she'll take good care of you. But I also wanted to extend a hand to you to let you know that I'm here for you for anything at all if you need some other guidance or some help. Again, what does that say to the customer? Wow, that's professional. Man, that's courteous. Who else is doing that? Do you think the show rate would go up or go down if the manager were to confirm it? It goes up. It goes up by 30%. So the show rate goes to 80% versus 50%. And 80% of 150 is 120. So now you got 120 appointments that showed up. Okay, if you have 120 appointments that showed up, 55% of that is what? Well, it goes back to 66. And 65% of 66 is how much? Well, do the math again, you end up with 43. Okay? So you got 43 deals off of what? The same 250 rings. Again, wash out the 8 that you're already getting. That's still 35 additional units on the same money being spent. Again, you could be your average NADA in America, which is 3%, right? Or you can go to the average level in terms of what we recommend is 10% to start. This is newfound business. Immediately you can pick up, which is what? An extra 19 deals. Or if we get everybody singing up the same song sheet and everyone's focused in on doing their job and confirmation calls are being made and everyone's doing what they need to be doing, my gosh, an extra 35 deals. Again, a little plus a little equals what? It equals a lot, doesn't it? All we're talking about is putting some good systems in place to grow your business. Again, we don't want to come into work every day and put our nose against the glass and just wait. Okay, let's wait around here for the opportunity to talk to someone. You know, when it's quiet in the dealership environment, we need to get out there and shake hands, right? Get out there and shake hands when we can, when they're out there. But when they're not out there, what do we do? Wait? Heck no. Make some phone calls. Contact these unsold people that left here and get them excited about coming back in. Or listen to that phone. Grab those incoming phone calls and really follow the call guides we're going to get into here in the next few chapters of our workshop, okay, in terms of growing this business. Is this making sense, everybody? And the third area we want to look at here is our owner base. You know, listen to this here. We found out that 62% of all of our sales have someone in the family that's going to buy a car in the next 6 months. 62%. But remember that I told you earlier today? I said that 90% of all the customers out there, they never even receive a phone call from their salesperson after they take delivery. Don't ask me why. I guess it's employee thinking. It's not entrepreneurial thinking is why. Okay? They make their commission and they move on to the next deal, the next victim, if you will. Right? They come in there, they stand around, they wait for the opportunity to grab somebody, man, and they cut them up like a Safeway chicken, and they move on to the next deal. And now we don't want to do that, do we? We want to come to work every single day and be proactive, not reactive. And so our owner base is a huge resource for us. Okay? Listen, who's the very best person to get referrals from? Someone you just sold a car to, right? And if we know that 62% of everyone out there has a member in the family that's going to buy, regardless whether you call them or not, and you can roll the dice and hope they just come back to you in 6 months, but you know what? We found out that the majority of customers out there don't even know your name anymore after the first month. They've forgotten about you. Why? There's been no follow-up. There's been no letters being sent out in your behalf. So what happens? Well, out of sight, out of mind. Then all of a sudden their mom or their sister wants to buy a vehicle, and what do? They just go out and do their own research. They don't come down to you and see you. So our focus has to be is this. If we are, in fact, 100 cars a month, and we know that 62% of that 100 have a member of the family that's going to buy a car in the next 6 months, that's 62 deals over 6 months. So my thinking is 10%, again, worst case scenario, being a C student, is to pick up an extra what? 6 deals per month. That's just 6 deals per month for the store. Maybe a half for you, or maybe a 1 full deal for sure for yourself. And not to mention that 87% of everyone out there right now in America knows someone in the market to buy a car right now. So why don't we call these customers back and update our household records and get their mom or dad or brother and sister, but also prospect them for friends and co-workers as well. Again, you know what? I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you know, let's say we're facing a deal here, a process that we look at every single day. We exchange our life for our paycheck. That's the bottom line. You're getting your paycheck every single month. And you look at your paycheck and say, you know what? I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more money than I'm making. Well, prove it to me. Everyone says that. But what does your activities represent? Your activities produce results. A lack of activities produce a lack of results. It's up to you to make a difference in your life, to change. Again, it's like that fly in the windowsill analogy. You know, the fly wants to go outside. He's bouncing off the window from the inside. He continues to bounce off the window until what? Until you look down at the bottom of the windowsill and you see a bunch of flies laying down there. The bottom line is that they want to get outside, but yet they do the same thing. All the fly has to do is continue to fly around the house until he finds an open door, an open window. How many of us are like the flies? They go to work and we work our butt off. We want to make a lot of money, but we don't do the actions that it needs to get the money. Or we don't know how to do the actions to make the money. Again, it's either a knowing problem or a doing problem. And hopefully this tape series here is going to take away the knowing problem. If you understand what to do and you apply yourself daily, and let's face it, we're here for 10 hours anyway, we might as well come for 10 hours and work those 10 hours. And pick up a little bit in our floor follow-up, pick up a little bit more in our phone-up follow-up and our phone-ups, and pick up a little bit more in our owner base and referral business. Again, this is all C average students anyway. Guys, it's been a pleasure for me to work with you here and educate you on this little process, this little insight, if you will, of business development. Hey, till next time, have a super day. Take care.